Imagine a user threatening to blow up a whole block only to disappear a few days later. That's what 4chan threads are capable of. Any anonymous person could come in and spread panic throughout the world, and nobody would know who it was. But some threads get so scary that nobody's able to forget them. Here are 3 of the most disturbing 4chan threads. A858, the unsolvable cipher. In the endless scroll of Reddit threads, buried beneath the chaos of memes and debates, one post appeared on a small, unnoticed subreddit in March of 2011. There was no caption and no context, just a long, lifeless string of hexadecimal code. Most people skipped right over it, but a few paused, and from that pause, a storm was born. The username behind it was A858DE45F56D9BC9. It read like a digital license plate, but that wasn't even the strangest thing about it. Every single day, this account posted again. Another message. Another wall of cryptic hexadecimal that looked like nothing more than a digital glitch to the untrained eye. But there was something about the consistency, commitment, and total silence from the poster. That's when people started to notice. By the end of the year, entire Reddit threads were dedicated to cracking the code. And when the coders and cryptographers couldn't do it alone, 4chan joined in, bringing with it a mix of obsession, humor, and internet madness. Thousands of users began collaborating across platforms, trying to make sense of what some were already calling A858, the unsolvable cipher. What was the point? Why did the code never stop? And more importantly, what did it mean? That's where it got disturbing. The deeper you went, the more the code seemed to resist understanding. Patterns refused to emerge. Common cryptographic methods, frequency analysis, brute force decoders, even linguistic algorithms yielded little more than fragments. A few messages, when decoded, led to strange discoveries. A quote from a dead philosopher, a photograph of a desolate landscape, and even references to obscure pop culture moments in ancient history. But these breadcrumbs offered no map. If anything, they deepened the mystery. And through it all, A858 said nothing. Once in a while, the account would respond to a user, briefly, vaguely, and never with anything useful. It was like talking to a machine or someone pretending to be one. Theories were all over the place, claiming that maybe it was a secret intelligence test by the government. Maybe it was a recruitment campaign for an underground organization, or maybe it wasn't a person at all. It could just be an algorithm churning out data, watching the chaos unfold. But the most unsettling part wasn't the code. It was the people chasing it. Some users became obsessed. They lost sleep, scoured data tables for days on end, and started to believe they were on the brink of something huge. But nothing ever cracked. The closer they got, the further it seemed. For some, it took a psychological toll. They poured their time, effort, and even sanity into a cipher that never gave anything back. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff and staring into fog, convinced something was there, if only you stared long enough. Then came the silence. In April of 2015, the post stopped, just like that. The thread went dark, and the account vanished into the void. There was no closure and no answers, just 4 years of unexplained code, an army of internet sleuths left stranded, and a digital ghost no one ever truly caught. To this day, A858 remains one of the internet's most baffling enigmas. Some still believe it hides a message, waiting for the right mind or the right moment to unlock it. Others think it was all a social experiment, a trap to test the limits of obsession. And some, they've given up completely. They call it what it always claimed to be, unsolvable. The Cicada 3301 recruitment thread. A post quietly appeared on January 4, 2012, on 4chan chaotic b-board. It had no username anyone recognized, and no flashy graphics or attention-seeking flair, just a black image with white text and a simple invitation. Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. There is a message hidden in this image. Nothing else was specified. This was simply a challenge and a mystery that would spiral into one of the strangest internet phenomena of the decade. At first, people thought it was a joke, another troll post in a sea of memes and madness. But then someone decoded the image. Inside, buried beneath pixels, was another clue. Then another. Then coordinates. And just like that, a digital scavenger hunt exploded onto the global stage. The name behind it was Cicada 3301. It wasn't a brand or even an alias tied to any individual. It was a ghost, or 100 ghosts, whispering from the shadows of the web, daring the smartest minds online to play their game. But this wasn't just some code-breaking hobby. What Cicada unleashed was brutal. Puzzles were laced with ancient philosophy, obscure poetry, heavy encryption, and techniques even seasoned programmers had never seen before. The riddles spanned steganography, cryptography, literature, dark web navigation, and dead languages. Some clues referenced the works of William Blake. Others sent players spiraling into texts by Aleister Crowley, or through riddles that twisted logic in ways that made even experts pause. And the deeper it went, the stranger it got. Because this wasn't confined to the internet. Once solvers cleared the early digital rounds, something unthinkable happened. Real-world coordinates began to appear. Locations spread across the globe. Warsaw, Seoul, Paris, Sydney. Posters stamped with a black cicada and cryptic QR codes showed up on telephone poles and street signs. It was no longer just an online game. Now, players were being pulled outside, into unfamiliar cities, at odd hours to chase clues dropped by an invisible hand. And no one knew who was watching. Theories came fast. Was this the CIA, NSA, a recruiting test for a covert operation? Some swore it had all the signs of a secret society looking to build its own digital priesthood. Others feared it was something darker, an indoctrination tool for a fringe cult hiding behind cryptic riddles and the allure of intelligence. Some even claimed that certain tasks whispered of manipulation, pushing solvers toward belief systems buried under centuries of occultism and secrecy. And then there was the silence. No one who finished the puzzles ever really said what happened next. A few anonymous users hinted they were invited further. Some mentioned private forums, strange tasks, and then nothing. There was no confirmation or revelation, just a trail of players who vanished back into the web, never to post again. By 2014, Cicada disappeared. There was just one final puzzle, and then nothing. To this day, no one knows who or what was behind it, but the question remains, what if they're not gone? What if they're just waiting for the right mind to come knocking? The Grenade Guy. On 4chan, threads come and go like smoke. But sometime in the early 2010s, a post appeared on the infamous B-board, the place known for its chaos, lawlessness, and total lack of rules. At first, it looked like another joke, another stunt, another faceless post in the crowd. But then the image loaded. It was a real military-grade grenade, and someone was holding it. The person didn't give a name, and the internet gave them one almost instantly: Grenade Guy. What followed was a thread that tore through the online underground. The poster claimed they had stumbled upon, or maybe acquired a live grenade, lying around like it was nothing. They shared photos holding it in their hand, propping it up on a kitchen counter, and balancing it next to a toothbrush like some surreal still life. There was no panic, just quiet updates from someone who might have been seconds away from doing something unthinkable. The thread eventually blew up. People swarmed in from every corner of the internet, unsure whether they were watching a prank, a cry for help, or the prelude to something terrifying. Some treated it like entertainment, joking, pushing, daring Grenade Guy to go further. Others begged him to stop and even pleaded with moderators to shut it down. But the post kept growing, and the tone kept shifting. Grenade Guy began talking about pulling the pin and about what might happen if he did. At first, it sounded like curiosity, then it sounded like temptation, and then something worse. He wrote about going outside with it and testing it somewhere public. Suddenly, this wasn't just a strange thread, it was a live feed of a potential threat. Real, immediate, and spiraling fast. Every new photo felt like a warning. Users started analyzing the backgrounds, trying to guess his location. They were looking for shadows, reflections, anything that could place him before it was too late. But the most disturbing part was the crowd. While some were frantic, others cheered him on. Someone even asked what it would sound like if it went off indoors. The anonymity of 4chan had created a theater with no rules, no accountability. Just an audience watching a man with a weapon, wondering if they were about to witness something irreversible. Eventually, the thread vanished, but screenshots survived. Archives floated around, and Grenade Guy became a name whispered in digital corners. No one ever figured out who he really was, and that's how this mystery came to an end.